The next couple of weeks, we're going to have a couple guest speakers. If you guys remember Zach Quilisi, he's like the buffest dude I know. He'll be here. This one guy that no one likes, David Thies or something, he'll be speaking. Yeah. But then we've got Rob Morace. If you know him, he's our high school pastor. He's going to be speaking. Jay Folk might be speaking as our lead pastor here. Who knows? Like, it's going to be wild. But for those of you who have just gotten into sixth grade, we are so pumped that you guys are here. Every week, basically what you've seen so far is basically what we do every single week. We have a ton of fun. We get crazy. We don't always run around in the dark. It's dangerous. You know, I got hurt. Emotionally, it's different. But we have a ton of fun, and so we're excited you guys are here. But right now what we're going to do is we're going to jump into the Word. We're going to jump into the Bible because that's why we're here. The fun and the games and the food and all that stuff is amazing. But right now we're going to dive into an incredible story that I'm so excited to talk to you guys about. And we're going to get started like super, super quick here. But let me preface it this way. I'm going to talk about a specific Bible character here today, okay? Now, how many of you guys, if I said we're going to talk about the strongest guy in the Bible with the longest hair who like rips stuff apart, who would I be talking about? Anybody know? Samson. We're talking about a guy named Samson. And if you have been in church for a while, you know this story. If you haven't been in church for a while, don't stress. The reason you're here is because we're going to read it together. We're going to dive into this together. But this was one tough dude, right? This Samson guy, if you know the story, he's one of the strongest guys in the Bible. He's got flowing long hair that he could never cut. Like, he was like the man's man. He was the dude's dude. He could like beat me up, which I know is hard to believe. I know, because you see how strong I am, right? This dude could probably beat me up if he tried, okay? But this guy was amazing. He's this guy that when we were little, like when we were in Sunday school, we used to color his picture because he was like the man, right? Anytime we talked about strength, this was the guy that we talked about. So I thought this would be a great way to start off our Camp Talk series because this guy, man, he was legit. But here's the thing. This guy, let me kind of set the backstory for you guys really quick, okay? Here's the deal. So there was a man and a woman who were married, okay? Anybody know Samson's dad's name? If you know, I have a prize for you. Anybody know? What? Not Jeremiah. You guessed. Good job. Anybody know? What is it? What is it? He's just staring at me. He's not saying a word. Josh? I'm pretty sure there was no Josh, yeah. There was Joshua, but yeah. Shikardi B. I like our sixth graders. Hey, David, your new rap name is Shikardi B. Legit, we're gonna sell billions of records. Okay, no, it was not Shikardi B. I think that's what you said. His dad's name was Manoah, and here's the deal. Manoah and his wife, they didn't have kids together, right? And they were getting really upset, and they were down to luck. And then one day an angel appears to Manoah's wife, and he says, "You're about to have a baby." And she goes, "What?" And gets crazy excited, right? So she goes to Manoah. They talk about it. And here's the deal, though. There was one thing that was going to be very specific about their son, okay? Their son was going to be a Nazirite from birth until death. If you don't know what a Nazirite is, let me tell you. A Nazirite, if you look in the book of Numbers, here's what it is. It's a vow. It's something that you said, this is the way that I'm going to live, and it's something that you promised, and it had a beginning and end, things like that. But here's what it is. An Israelite consecrated to the service of God under vows to abstain from alcohol, let their hair grow, and could not touch dead bodies because they would then be seen as unclean. Okay, so let's start that over. Ready? A Nazirite is somebody who is consecrated, who's committed to the service of God. Okay, so while you are a Nazirite, while you take a Nazirite vow, you are doing God's work. Okay, that's step one. Step two, no booze, no alcohol, nothing like that. Okay, so you had to stay away from that. It even says that you cannot drink from anything fermented or from the vine, which is talking about wine. And back then, a lot of people had wine at parties, stuff like that. You could not do that. Okay? And the third one was you could not touch a dead body because if you touched a dead body, you were seen as unclean. Okay? So that's the three Nazirite vows. Like those are the three things you're committing to. Make sense? Everybody with me so far? You with me? With me? Okay, here we go. We're going to keep moving. Tonight, if you've got your phone and you have the Bible on it, you can look this up. If you need a Bible, there's some back there. But we're going to crush through this thing. We have 3 chapters to get through, and I'm going to read parts of it, and then I'm going to paraphrase parts of it and kind of crush through this whole thing because there's so much. And this is so good to talk about that I'm so excited Here we go. We're going to be jumping around a little bit. But we're going to go to the book of, anybody know? The book of Judges. Okay, the book of Judges. We're going to go to chapter 14 is where we're going to start. This story actually begins in 13, and that's where his parents met the angel of the Lord and knew that they were going to have a baby, all that. But we're moving past that, okay? So we're going to go to chapter 14, and this is what is going down here. This is so cool to me because Samson, I'll kind of stall for a second while you get Bibles. Samson is a pretty amazing guy. Okay, he did some amazing things. Like I said, if you were in church growing up, you definitely colored this guy's picture at some point. You definitely know who this guy is. And so we're going to jump into chapter 14, verse 1 through 10 is our first part. Okay, here we go. Are you guys ready? I'm going to crush through this. Here we go. Are you guys ready? Nobody ready? Who's ready? Perfect. Okay, here we go. Samson went down to Timnah and saw there a young Philistine woman. When he returned, he said to his father and mother, I have seen a Philistine woman in Timnah. Now get her for me as my wife. He was like, Mom, Dad, go to the store, pick her up, bring her back to me. I want to marry her. His father and mother replied, Isn't there an acceptable woman among your relatives or among all your people? Must you go to the uncircumcised Philistines to get a wife? Okay, they were enemies. The Philistines were not the people of Samson's family, right? They were enemies. So he said, "Why do you have to go find one of those people? Come with our people." But Samson said to his father, "Get her for me. She's the right one for me." His parents did not know that this was from the Lord, who was seeking an occasion to confront the Philistines, for at that time they were ruling over Israel. Samson went down to Timnah together with his father and mother. As they approached the vineyards of Timnah, suddenly a young lion came roaring toward him. The Spirit of the Lord came powerfully upon him, so that he tore the lion apart with his bare hands, as he might have torn a young goat. I don't know how you compare the two. I don't know what it takes to rip apart a young goat, but apparently it was like he did it, he ripped the lion like you'd rip a goat. I don't know how much power that takes. Okay, got it. Okay, yeah, But he ripped a lion like a young goat. I don't know the difference, but apparently they did. Okay, so he ripped it apart, which is pretty insane to me. But like a young goat. But he told neither his father nor his mother what he had done. Then he went down and talked with the woman, and he liked her. Ooh. In today's translation, it would have said he liked her. Ooh. Okay. But he liked her. It's there. It exists. Sometime later, he went back to marry her. He turned aside to look at the lion's carcass, and in it he saw a swarm of bees and some honey. He scooped out the honey with his hands and ate as he went along. When he rejoined his parents, he gave them some, and they too ate it. But he did not tell them that he had taken the honey from the lion's carcass. Now his father went down to see the woman, and there Samson held a feast, as was customary for young men. When the people saw him, they chose 30 men to be his companions. Okay, so here's what's happening. Samson, strongest dude around. He's walking towards his future wife that he's about to like, okay? And then he sees a lion coming at them, and he rips it apart just like you would rip a young goat, like any of us have done before. He rips it apart, and then he goes, "Urgh," and then he goes and meets his wife. He likes her, and then on his way back to marry her sometime later, he looks to the side of the road, and he sees his trophy. He sees the dead carcass of the lion, and then I didn't know bees do this, but bees were inside of the body and they made honey, and he said, honey's delicious. So he scoops it out, and then he goes and gives it to his parents as a gift. That's pretty manly, right? First of all, you killed a lion like you'd kill a goat. Everybody's done that. But then you go and I'm deathly allergic of bees. If one stings me, I'll die. So watch out at Whitewater. But he scoops it out. Bees are probably stinging his face, but he's like, I'm a man. And then he goes and he gives it to his parents. This is one tough dude. Am I right? Oh my gosh, oh my gosh. Okay, so here's the next part. We're not going to read the next part. I'm going to paraphrase. I'm going to kind of go quickly. The next part, here's the deal. Samson, as he gets to his feast, right? The feast is for him. It's as he's marrying his wife. It's this marriage thing. It's for 7 days, right? 7-day marriage, which sounds like a long time, but it's a week long. It's a festival. It's amazing. They have food, all this stuff. Samson starts to play games with the Philistines. He starts to play games with his wife's people. And so he tells them this riddle. He says, hey, listen, I'm going to tell you a riddle. And if you can figure out the answer before the 7-day feast is done, I will give you clothes and garments. Okay? I'll give you 30 garments, 30 clothes. We'll make it, we'll be good. Ready? Here we go. I'm going to test your knowledge. I'm going to see how smart you are. And he replied in verse 14, he says, out of the eater, something to eat. Out of the strong, something sweet. Anybody know the answer of what it is? Honey, right? That seems pretty easy, right? Except, remember the Philistines didn't know that he just ripped a lion like a young goat. He had no idea that he grabbed this honey out of the belly of this dead lion. They had no idea, right? So we know because we get to see it, but they didn't. So over 7 days, they're trying to figure this out. And because they are his wife's people, they go, hey, listen up. They go to his wife and they go, hey, you need to tell us the answer. Like, we got to know. Like, if you don't, we're gonna burn you. Not like, ooh, roasted, but like, we're going to burn you, right? That seems really harsh. I'm with you. But they said that, and so she goes to her husband, and she goes, well, why won't you tell me the answer? Like, why won't you tell me? And he goes, I haven't even told my parents. Like, why would I tell you, woman? Right? I know that's okay, but that's probably what he said, right? But he goes, no, I haven't told my parents. Why would I tell you? And so she begins to press him and press him. And so finally, she goes and tries to get the answer. And on the 7th day of the feast, he's sick of it. He's fed up. He's like, oh, you keep asking me. And so he tells her the answer. She then told her people to make them happy, and he immediately knew it was his wife. He immediately knew because she's the only person he told. In verse 19, it says, sorry, not verse 19. We're not there yet. But he goes and he tells him, and they figure out the riddle, right? And they tell him the answer. And he's like, excuse me? My wife told you? And so he's not happy, and he gets mad, and he's the strongest dude around. And so he goes and he kills 30 people to get 30 sets of garments and clothes to give to the Philistines. Verse 19 says, the Spirit of the Lord fills him, and he kills 30 men, and he gives the number of clothes that he promised to the one who solved the riddle, right? So in verse 19, I want you guys to read this whole chapter later, but right now, we're going to keep going. But he goes off, strongest dude around. He goes, hey, I owe you 30 clothes. I'm going to get you 30 clothes. And he goes off, and he just like, what? And like throat punches him, right? And then they're like, and then like throat chop. Right, Vic, got it. And then he comes back, and he takes all 30 sets of garments and clothes, and he gives them to the people who solved the riddle, right? That's pretty crazy. I think I could probably take on one of you pretty easy, maybe 3, but 30 people? Once again, this dude is something else, right? He is, all right. So we're going to go to the next part. I'm going to keep moving. We're going to keep crushing this thing. In the next part, Samson gets back to his father's house, and he finds that his wife was given to somebody else. Let me rephrase. His wife, who he just like was about to marry in the feast, was given to somebody else. Remember, he liked her, okay? This wasn't like, I like you. This was like, I like you, okay? But what happens is his father gives her away, right? I don't think any of us would be happy about that. But the reason that they give her away is because they assume that he would not be happy with her because she told them the answer to the riddle. So they're like, oh, well, we'll save you because, I mean, her younger sister is far more beautiful. Kind of weird, right? How would you guys feel about that? Like, I wouldn't be super stoked about that, right? But he's not happy, and so he goes to the Philistines, and he goes to where all their grains and crops are, and he takes, this is so crazy, right? This is how strong and how awesome this guy is, right? He takes 300 foxes, captures them. I don't know if you do like a net or a cage. I don't know how that works. But he captures 300 foxes. He ties pairs, like their tails together, and then lights a torch on their tails, and then goes, get out of here, right? And then they run through like the corn and the wheat and all that stuff, and they burn it all up. And he says, I gotcha. And he's trying to get his vengeance on them, right? He's trying to say, like, hey, I'm going to get back. I'm going to get you. I'm going to make it even, right? And so he burns up all their crops. So guess what they do now? The Philistines are not happy. Okay, so basically what's happening here is there's a couple people not happy with each other, and then they start to fight and go back and forth. And at some point, somebody's got to say, all right, we're even now, but that's not exactly what happens. They keep fighting. So the Philistines are so mad, so to get even with him, they go and they burn his wife and her father to death. The Philistines are so mad, right? They're so frustrated with Samson because they know that he did it, right? They go and they take his wife and her father and burn them alive. Oh, shoot. Oh, shoot. Right? And then everybody walks away and they say, all right, we're even. Samson will leave you alone. Philistines, I'll leave you alone. And they all go their happy way, live happily ever after. Wrong. I know that would sound great, but that's not what happens, right? And so here's what happens, okay? Again, we're crushing this. The Philistines show up where Samson was, and they show up with a bunch of dudes ready to fight, like ready to rock, like, hey, he took out 30, but we're ready for him, like, gonna punch him, right? And so they're ready to fight. And the people of Judah went to Samson and said, bro, they're here. Like, what did you do? Like, we know you did something. What happened? What did you do? So Samson goes, I just, tried to get even with them, right? Like, I tried to, they tagged me. I tagged them back. Like, we're fighting. Like, but it's cool. But, I mean, it's not my fault. But, we're fighting. Like, I'm getting back at them for what they did to me. So we're going to jump to chapter 15, verse 12. And here's what happens next. This is so cool. This is so cool. In verse 11, the last part, he says, he answered, I merely did to them what they did to me. Pick up in verse 12. They said to him, we've come to tie you up and hand you over to the Philistines. Samson said, swear to me that you won't kill me yourselves. Agreed, they answered. We will only tie you up and hand you over to them. We will not kill you. So they bound him with 2 new ropes and led him up from the rock. As he approached Lehi, the Philistines came toward him shouting, and the Spirit of the Lord came powerfully upon him. The ropes on his arms became like charred flax. I don't know what that means, but it fell apart, right? And the bindings dropped from his hands, finding a fresh jawbone of a donkey. Like, those are available. He grabbed it and struck down 1,000 men. Then Samson said, with a donkey's jawbone, I have made donkeys of them. With a donkey's jawbone, I have killed 1,000 men. He's like a rapper, right? When he finished speaking, he threw away the jawbone, and the place was called Ramath Lehi. All right, so let me. Here's what happened. So he's waiting. He's hiding. He's sleeping. Whatever. Philistines show up. The people of Judah come to him and say, "Hey, they're here, bro. What did you do?" Right? And he's like, "Hey, I just did to them what they did to me. I tagged them back. Like, we're even now." And they said, okay, well, we're here because we have to hand you over or things are going to get bad for us. So just help us out. So he goes, all right, if you don't kill me, I'll go with you. So they tie him up. He goes. And as soon as he gets there to the Philistines, the ropes fall apart. They fall off him. He grabs, I don't know where these are available, but he grabs the jawbone of a donkey and starts slaying 1,000 people. And then he gets some sick rhymes. This dude, nothing could stop this guy. Right? How many of you guys think if you were like Samson, you'd be top 3 in the NFL right now? Or tennis or kickball. At least kickball, right? Right? Imagine this guy kills 1,000, he could kick a ball whoo, right? But this dude is on another planet. He's on another level. Homeboy slayed 1,000 men with the jawbone of a donkey. Where did he get it? Apparently, it was at 7-Eleven. And he just went in, swiped his Visa, and grabbed one off the shelf, got it right. No, there's probably a dead donkey, and he goes, "Whatcha?" like that, and stabbed him, right? This dude is on another level. I'm gonna summarize really fast the rest of this story. Here's what happens. Sometime later, Samson falls in love with a woman named Delilah. More than okay? He falls in love with her. But Delilah gets offered some money from the Philistines to try to find out what his weakness is, right? And so when they're together, she asks him, "What's the deal with your power? Where does your strength come from?" And so he not really wanting to give the answer, he tells her a lie. And so one night she binds him with bowstrings, right? That was what he said. He said, if you bind my hands with bowstrings, then I will be as weak as any other man. So she binds his hands, and then while he's sleeping, she goes, oh, the Philistines are here. And then he goes, wow, because he lied. And he wasn't weak, and he ripped them apart, and he's ready to fight. He's like, I'm ready to rumble, right? And she goes, why did you lie to me? And then the next night, and for nights and nights and nights, he keeps telling her these stories of where his power comes from. And then every time, she's trying to sell him out because she was promised silver for doing so. And so every night, he tells her a different story of where the power comes from. And then every night, it's not true. But finally, one night, he gives in and he says, hey, my head has never felt a razor. My hair has grown my whole life from my Nazarite vows. Like he tells her where it comes from. So she goes, okay, sweetie, go to sleep now, right? And so he falls asleep, and that night she tells the Philistines the secret. And as he falls asleep, they come and they shave his head. And when he wakes up, he goes to bust loose and get wild. But then he realizes that his hair was cut. And he says that he did not know that the Spirit of the Lord had left him. So then he gets taken prisoner, and then they gouge out his eyes, like taken prisoner, right? But then I guess we're going a step further, and we're ripping eyeballs out. So he rips out his eyeballs, and they throw him in the dungeon. They throw him in prison. And then one day at a party, they bring him out to be entertained, and he entertains them. And then as he's standing there with eyes gouged out, can't see, he asks somebody, a servant who was with him, to lean him against one of the pillars of the temple that they were in. And he prays to God. He says, God, if you remember me, give me the strength one last time. Fill me with your Spirit. And so then he leans up against these pillars and he pulls them down, and the entire temple with thousands of people inside comes crashing down, and he himself dies because he knows that that's what has to happen. Homeboy was on it, right? Like, this guy had a lot going on. The strongest dude, he slips up. Why? He trusts this woman named Delilah, and then she tricks him, and not good. And his first wife was burned alive, and then he gets foxes, and I don't know how hard that is to catch, but he catches 300 of them. Like, this guy was crazy. But here's the question. Here's the problem with the story of Samson. As excited as I get about this, as awesome as we've learned about Samson, if you grew up in church, you colored his picture. When you talk about strength, this is the guy, right? This is our example. When somebody says, if you've ever been told, be a man, a lot of people follow it up with, be like Samson. I heard that growing up. But here's the one problem with this story. Go back to the beginning. When his mother and father were told you're about to have a baby, he was going to be what for his whole life? We remember? A Nazirite. He was going to take the Nazirite vow, what were the three things? Anybody remember? Christian, what were they? Yep, be a man of God, be committed to God. Okay, next one. Number 2. Yep, no alcohol. Okay, keep going. Yep. Never cut his hair. What's the last one? Don't touch a dead body. Let's look back at this story. The very first part, he takes a lion, rips it apart, and then he goes back sometime later and grabs honey out of the dead carcass. Did he keep his vows? Sometime later, he gets mad on a day because somebody told his riddle, so he goes and kills 30 people. Are we supposed to murder? Right? Like, he goes, and then later he kills 1,000 men with the jawbone of a donkey. Let's call that war. Let's say that killing was justified by war. I get that. But the jawbone of a donkey, what is that? It's a dead body. You see, repeatedly, his vows were set. He knew what he had to do. He even believed that the power came from his hair. But where did his power come from? Came from the Spirit. And when he wakes up and his hair is gone, he feels the Spirit's gone. But then in his final moments, as he's standing in the temple, he goes, God, fill me with your power. You see, he gets it at the end. He goes, God, fill me with your power one more time. Remember me, he says. And so here's my question for you guys tonight. How many of us find success and we think that success justifies the things that we do that are wrong? How many of you think being the best soccer player in front of everybody makes it okay for you to lie to your parents? How many of us think by getting straight A's in school, it's okay to search for that stuff on the internet? How many of us see success as something that can overshadow where we fall short? You see, 6th graders, I know you're new to this. I know this is your first night, and I don't want to get super heavy, but this is so important. When we look at the story of Samson, how many of us get jacked up, ready to fist bump, just so excited about this guy named Samson who did some incredible things that we forget where he fell short? We forget where he did things that he knew he was not supposed to do, yet the cool things he did make us forget about it. You see, I think so many times in our lives, and I'll say this for everybody in the room, your leaders, myself, our staff here, your worship band, we are no different than you. We all struggle with things. We all make bad choices. We all do the wrong thing sometimes. But what I never want us to do is think that by doing good deeds, that just erases the things that we continue to do when no one's around. By being the best person who's always here at church, sits front row, I'm so excited you guys are here, takes notes all the time, reads their Bible, but then sneaks to the movie that their parents said don't go to. But hey, I went to church this week. It's cool that I did that because everyone sees this. Nobody's going to remember that. Does that make it okay? Is it worth it? Because essentially, I mean, this might be a little dramatic, but are you kind of living a double life? Again, I want to preface it this way. Your leaders, myself, our staff, our band, everyone here, we are no different than you. We struggle with this each and every day. But what I want to encourage you to do is not let your success, not let the things that you're good at, not let the things that people go, wow, not let that overshadow and let you forget the areas that you fall short and need to fix. Man, if we had more time, I could go on for days of the things I got to fix. But just because I'm up here with a microphone talking about Jesus, talking about Samson, talking about God, this doesn't justify me going home and looking at pornography. You see, me standing up here talking to you about Jesus, helping create this environment, holding a Bible, doing those things, that doesn't justify me going home and yelling at my kids and treating them like dirt. It doesn't justify me disrespecting my parents. It doesn't justify anything. You see, success is amazing. Success is great, and I want you guys to have it. But with success, let's also remember behind closed doors when no one's watching that the areas that we fall short need to get fixed. The areas that we fall short, we've got to work at. I'm not saying it's going to happen tonight. I'm not saying it's going to happen tomorrow, this summer, next school year, the next year when you're in high school, when you're in college. I don't know when it's going to happen. But here's what I know. It takes a conscious decision. It takes a conscious decision to be who God has called us to be all the time. You see, it doesn't happen by accident, right? Like, you don't just get to wake up in the morning and go, wow, like, I'm perfect. Because one, you never will be. I never will be. I wish. But it takes a conscious decision for you to say, this is who I'm going to be all the time for a change to happen. But as we wrap up tonight, what's going to happen next is we're going to sing one last song. I want you to take this moment to reflect on what we've talked about, to talk to God for a moment. If that's you singing up here, if that's you sitting in your chair with your eyes closed, do what you need to do. Then after that, I'm going to come back up for a second, and I'm going to tell you what's going on next. But in this moment, as we go to our last song, I want you guys to praise God, talk to God, ask God what you need to fix. Ask God, where am I falling short that I need to work at? And don't let success overshadow where you fall short. Success is incredible. I hope to be as successful as God wants me to be. I hope it's as successful as I want to be. But I can't let that overshadow where I fall short in the things that I do that aren't good. Let's pray. God, thank you so much for tonight. Thank you for all of these students, our new Elevate family, our old Elevate family, our leaders, our band, everybody. Thank you so much for bringing us all here together that we can dive into your word, that we can dive into this incredible story of Samson, and through his story, we can learn a little bit about what we're supposed to do in life, how we're supposed to live, what we're supposed to say, what we're supposed to do, and what we're supposed to not do. I pray as we go tonight into our small groups, it'll be an incredible time of learning, growing, getting to know each other, and becoming a safe place for us to talk about anything. I pray that as we go tonight and go home, that we would not forget what we do tonight, that we would, as we go to school or summer tomorrow, that we would be able to live who we are and who you have designed us to be, both in front of people and behind closed doors. I pray that you would help us be the best us that we can be. And we pray, amen.